IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from Central Europe. I hope everybody has had a great week and is looking forward to an even better weekend. Hi, Pachu. Hi, Anatoly, Shubshirat, Mahbuba, Saleh. Nice to see many students in the class on time. We are looking at the IELTS listening section in this class. Specifically, we're focusing on Part 3 and Part 4, more challenging parts of the listening. And of course, we are targeting that nice high Band 9 finish. Hi, Carolina. Nice to see our members in the class as well. Students, these materials are presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. And for the general IELTS, please check us out at gieltshelp.com on both of our websites. We have lots and lots and lots of materials to help you improve for your next exam. This is the academic version here with the blue background. Click that big red button. You'll get that My Student account, access to videos, interactive materials, quizzes, as well as original practice exams and much, much more. The general IELTS exam or general IELTS website looks like this. With the green background, you can click that big red button to join there. If you have questions, students, just send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. I will gladly answer your inquiries. So right now, again, listening, part 3 and 4 coming up. And then tomorrow we'll have some speaking part 2 cue card for members. Of course, it'll be a new topic. And then a speaking part 3 that will be for everyone. Just a quick review of yesterday's class. Yesterday we did, of course, listening part 1 and part 2. As I said, be ready for lots of demographic information in part 1 and use the instruction time in part 1 to take a peek at the topic of part 3 and part 4. Does anybody remember from yesterday what the topics of today's listening part 3 and 4 will be? Because we had a sneak peek at those topics during the instructions for part 1, and then we talked about that, and I said that will give you a chance to think more about it. So Nawal, nursery school was the topic of part 1. Mazir, that's right, Isaac Newton, that'll be part 4, right? And Carolina says university. University was part 2 from yesterday. Carolina, Newton will be part 4. Makbuba says something about Egypt for part 3. Yeah, close, Makbuba. Egypt is definitely in there. It'll be something about taxes. Very good. Okay. Now, tip 2 and tip 3 from yesterday are actually very important for today as well. Okay. So if you miss an answer, don't panic. It's easier to miss answers in part 3 and part 4 because there's just a lot more language. It can be a little bit faster. There can be more speakers. If you miss an answer, don't panic. So there's an idiom in English. The idiom is it's water under the bridge. Okay? Anybody heard this idiom before? It's water under the bridge. So if you miss an answer, it's water under the bridge. It's water under the bridge means it's gone. Don't worry about it. Okay? So don't worry about it. So keep looking forward. Make sure you don't miss more answers because you're worrying about the answers that are gone, okay? Again, logic will help you later and maybe you can figure out the answers anyway. Okay, so tip number 3 is important. I'd use some of the key words like dates and names to identify where you are. And paraphrasing becomes even more important in part 3 and part 4. Paraphrasing means synonyms, so different words that have the same meaning. Antonym negatives together, like stay, don't go. Okay, so different ways to paraphrase with grammar as well. One of the ways that the questions become more challenging in part 3, part 4 is that there's more paraphrasing. So they're using more complex paraphrasing. So you have to be really careful with paraphrasing. Okay. All right. So let's get into this, students. I'm going to start playing the listening audio, and I want you to listen and answer, and then we'll talk strategy. Now, make sure that you do not put your answer into the chat so that everybody has an equal chance to answer on their own. And, of course, if you put the wrong answer in the chat, that will just confuse other people, so don't do that. This is part 3. IELTS this year changed the naming to part 3 instead of section. Section's a bit confusing. So part 3, and these are part 3 questions 21 to 30. On our websites, you will find that as CD3 track 3 in the practice exams. Okay. So everybody get ready to do this. We're just going to go to the academic website here. Now I'm using a headset microphone and a nice Bose speaker, so if it's quiet for you, try to use a headset if one's available, and turn up the volume, of course. Okay, everyone, it's a bit bright, I know. You can see me a bit better, but it will be darker again. So, all right. Here we go, everyone, with listening part 3 for our third exam. Get ready for it.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening section 3. You will hear a public forum discussion between the moderator and 2 contributors, Dr. Philip McPhee and Dr. Ron Tatum, both political scientists at the local university, talking about the nature of taxes in society. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. McPhee and Dr. Tatum for taking time out of their busy lives to spend this evening with us.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. McPhee, could you give us a little bit of the history of taxation?
Certainly. Taxes have been around almost as long as civilization itself. There are records of taxes being collected by Egyptian pharaohs approximately 5,000 years ago. It was customary to give 20% of your production to the pharaoh, and those who evaded taxes were severely punished.
Dr. Tatum, what are the reasons for taxes?
Well, there are essentially 3 major reasons for taxes. The first and most obvious reason is revenue. Governments need money, and taxes fulfill this need. The government then spends this tax revenue on investments that are good for society, such as healthcare, schools and roads. Funding the army would fall under this category as well. The second reason for taxation is for the redistribution of wealth. In simpler terms, this means taking money from the rich and giving it to the poor. Many societies do this out of a belief that it is the responsibility of the government to look after the poor people in society. I'll let Dr. McPhee talk about the final reason for taxation, called repricing.
Thank you, Dr. Tatum. Yes, the third main reason for taxation is called repricing, and by this we mean changing the price of a product to a different, generally higher price. This may sound quite strange, but if you bear with me, you'll see that it makes perfect sense. In general, products are allowed to be priced in a free market. That is to say, whoever can provide goods for the lowest price is the most successful. However, there are certain types of goods that we don't allow to go to the free market. In many countries, these are goods like tobacco and alcohol. These goods are subject to a repricing tax, which is used to discourage people from using the product. Also, these repricing taxes help offset the future medical costs associated with the people who use tobacco and alcohol excessively.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
Very well. Do you favour higher or lower taxes?
I am a strong proponent of higher taxes. The reason for this is simply that it is easier to make money when you already have money. This gives a massive advantage to those people who may have inherited money or come from rich families, because money is so much easier to gain for these people if used wisely. Taxing them seems only fair and for the greater good. This compensates the poorer sections of society who really have little or no hope to gain financial success.
I understand Dr. Tatum, but one has to be wary of the fact that if taxes are too high for businesses, then those businesses will leave the country in favour of countries with lower taxes. Of course, it would be nice if we could legislate a worldwide tax structure, but this is simply not attainable. And I'm sure by the time it becomes attainable, companies will likely have opportunities to leave for another planet with more favourable tax structure.
Yes, you're right, Dr. McPhee. We must always be mindful of staying competitive. It is like a tightrope we must walk between compensating those less fortunate and being able to stay competitive in the market. Because if we fail to be competitive, then tax revenue will dry up, resulting in no money at all for the lower economic classes. So this is an extremely difficult balancing act.
Which leads to my next question. What is the future of taxation?
I believe you will see higher taxes in 50 years than there are today, just as we have higher taxes today than 50 years ago. We will need even more money for projects like high-speed transit, new roads, new technologies. Also, with an ageing population, medical costs could soar in the near future, resulting in higher taxes to support this healthcare system.
I think the future will be a lot like the present, walking the tightrope as Dr. Tatum mentioned. Where that takes us, I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I'd say higher taxes for the reasons Dr. Tatum outlined. However, another important variable to consider is whether free markets can really be allowed.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And always use that half minute to go over your answers. Check for spelling mistakes. Make sure that you read the questions carefully and accurately. Okay, make sure that if you have proper nouns, then you're capitalizing the proper nouns. Okay. All right. So let's get back to 21. And let's start with this one. So it was about taxes and the reasons for taxes, the different kinds of taxes being discussed by somebody who's interviewing them. Here it's right, no more than 2 words and or a number for each. That means one number, 1 word, 2 words, or 1 word and 1 number. Those could all be possible. Number 21, if an Egyptian's income was 10,000, how much would be given to the pharaoh? K2 engineering says, well, that would be 2,000. Yeah, not 20%, but 2,000. Okay, they probably won't give you the mark if you write 20%, because then you don't need the condition. So if the answer were 20%, then the question would just be, how much did Egyptians give to the Pharaoh? Okay. If the question is, how much did Egyptians give to the Pharaoh, okay, then the answer would be 20%, like that, okay? But here they give you a condition. The income was 10,000. So you have to do a little bit of simple math, right? So here the correct answer was 2,000, because 20% of 10,000, of course, is 2,000. Okay? All right, good. Now, the next question. So these are fill in the blanks. And again, you really have to pay attention to the information given and listen for the answer. And you want to listen for key words. In question 21, what would be the key word that you're listening for? Just out of curiosity. So remember that tip. What would be the key word that you're listening for in 21 to try to make sure that you catch that answer? It's not revenue, and it's not repricing. I haven't gotten to that question yet. Carolina says the number. So yeah, you're listening for a number. Now you don't hear the number 10,000, but you hear the number 20%. So you can write that down above it. Okay, that's one, Carolina. Very good. What else are you listening for? Okay, K2 Engineering says maybe the word income. Yes, but it could be earnings. So that could be paraphrased. What's a word that would not be paraphrased? Taifam, very good. Taifam says, how about the word pharaoh? Okay, yeah, pharaoh is a unique word. So you'd be listening for the word pharaoh, and you'd be listening for some kind of a number, okay? And for income, yes, but you'd be also listening for other ways to say it, like earnings or salary or payment, okay? Egyptian is another good one, because Egyptian is not likely going to be paraphrased. So Egyptian, pharaoh, and the number. Yeah. Okay. Hadi Hadiyar, one of our longtime students, hello there, says, hi, dear Adrian, I took my exam 2 weeks ago and I got 8 in listening, 7.5 in reading, 7 in speaking, and 5 in writing. Because of writing, I need to take it again. Any recommendations? Hadi, use our editing services. You got fantastic scores, Hadi, but you need to improve your writing. Use the editing service at ahelp.com. Send us at least a couple of your essays so we can tell you where you need to improve, okay? It's a paid service, but it's worth it. Otherwise, fantastic scores, okay? Band 8, 7.57, those are great. All right. It sounds to me, Hadi, like you might have written off topic based on your speaking skills, Hadi. If you're speaking a 7, your writing should be higher. So when I see that kind of a mark where the speaking is 7 or 7.5 and the writing is 5.5, it's usually because the essay is not on the right topic and controlling idea. Okay, so careful with that. All right, let's go to the next questions. So number 22, the first reason mentioned for taxes is now. You can tell me what that was. Makbuba says it's revenue. Yeah, it's revenue. It's make money, right? Revenue. And of course, it's all small letters. You can write all capital letters, but you don't need to capitalize the R. Shivam says, I got 8.5 overall. Fantastic, Shivam. Congratulations. That's great. Okay, number 23, the second reason. So they said there were 3 reasons, right? The second reason for taxes known as what? So that was an interesting one. Take money from the rich, give to the poor. Yeah, it's redistribution. Remember, it's only 2 words, so you can't say redistribution of wealth. Okay, you could say wealth redistribution, but just redistribution is enough. So redistribution. Okay. Redistribute. Redistribute means you collect and then you give it out again. Redistribute. Okay. Redistribution is the noun. If you want to write wealth, it would be the first word. Wealth, redistribution. Redistribution wealth is incorrect because it doesn't make sense in the context. Okay? So it would have to be known as wealth redistribution, takes money from the rich. So first word, second word. You don't need the word wealth, but if you use the word wealth, it would have to come first. All right? Okay, let's keep going. Here we go. So here you had a little flow chart that you had to figure out, so you had to listen carefully. It was the third reason for taxes, which was called, what was it called? What was the third reason for taxes? Anybody remember? So revenue, redistribution, and the third reason for taxes is, before we get into the answer, yeah, very good, Makbuba, repricing. Yeah, repricing, okay? So this was about the repricing. All right. Repricing, and here you have the product, and some products are allowed to go to the free market. What are allowed to go to the free market? So what's number 24? Okay, let me try to darken this up if you can't see it. There, make it a little bit darker. Okay. So number 24 is E, yeah, general goods. Okay. So general goods, most everything from vegetables, tomatoes, produce, to cars, toys, books, and the like, they are allowed to go to the free market. You can be competitive. How about number 25? It's subject to this repricing tax that we just talked about. So what is number 25? Revenue, alcohol, redistribution. What is it? B, it's alcohol. Yeah. Okay. And just some interesting information for you being Canadian. For those of you planning, I know a lot of people plan to visit and study or live in Canada. Canada has some of the harshest repricing taxes of any country because Canada really discourages bad habits like smoking and alcohol. So if you go to Canada today, you might be surprised, if you're a smoker, you might be surprised to find that a pack of cigarettes in Canada is close to $20 a pack. It's $1 per cigarette. It's crazy. And it's all because of this repricing tax. So tobacco comes into Canada at maybe $1 per pack, but Canada puts a massive tax on alcohol and cigarettes because they don't want people to abuse these products, and they know that it's very expensive for society. Car crashes, cancer patients, etc. It's very, very expensive. Okay, so interesting part. And some other countries like Scandinavian countries as well, alcohol is really expensive. Okay, good. So that was the first half of part 3, and then we got into this interesting multiple choice. Okay. Now, here you had 3 questions, 27, 28, 29. And you have these long sentences for each possible choice. So for this kind of a question, do not just look at the choices. It's very hard to figure out the right answers that way. Okay. All right. So for this kind of multiple choice, okay, I'm just going to give you a note here. All right. So for multiple choice questions, do not stare at the choices, hoping to find them as you hear them, especially when the choices are long answers, okay? Like in this case, okay? Instead, as soon as you hear an answer, jot it down in 2 to 3 words, okay? I'll show you what I mean in a second here. All right? That's the right way to do this, all right? So it's much more effective. So here you have to be listening for the answers, okay? For the answers, all right? Let's get back to it, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here, you have to be really careful about the question. So which 3 of the following are arguments given in favor of lower taxes, not higher taxes, okay? Why? Because one of the speakers starts with higher taxes, but then the other speaker says, well, you got to be careful. There are some advantages to lower taxes. So you hear the first one. What is the first reason that you heard? So you make some notes. That's right, Pachu. So what's the first reason that you heard for lower taxes? What should be your note? Okay. So what should be your note? Not your answer. I'm not looking for the answers. We'll talk about that. But what would be your note? What 2 or 3 words would you write down for the first answer that you heard? And whoever got this correct or wrote it down should have that. Okay. So what would that be? Yarabisha, it wasn't easier. Wasn't feasible for rich. Wasn't money. Yeah, there we go, Carolina. Very good. Okay. So businesses leave. That should have been your first note. Okay, just like that. So if I were answering this question in the official IELTS exam, my first note would be businesses or businesses leave. Okay, that would be my first one. Okay, what would be my second one? What would have been my second one? What would have been my second note? Okay. Competitive, yeah. Romaine, good. Competitive, very good, Victor. Competitive. Stay competitive, okay? And remember, you can write abbreviative like this, okay? You don't need to write out the whole word competitive, because if you write down stay comp with a period like that, it's fast, and you have everything you need. So biz, leave, stay comp, okay? And my next note would have been good for everyone. Okay? So, and instead of writing good, I would have just written a check mark. If it's bad, I would have just written an X. But in this case, it's good for everyone. So when I was listening to this part, all I would have done is biz, leave, stay, comp, good, everyone. And then I could look at these choices, and as some of you got it, B is one, okay? D is another one, and F is another one. So it was B, D, and F, because those line up with these answers here, okay? Is that clear? So everybody clear on the strategy that I use here? So I'm focusing on the question. I really pay attention to favor of lower taxes, okay? 3. And then I'm not looking at these because that could be really tricky. Even as a native speaker, that would be really difficult to figure it out in real time. So instead, I'm just listening for what is going on here, okay? Yeah, Victor, even in the computer-based exam, you do have a piece of paper and a pen. You can ask for it if it's not there, and you can jot it down. Yeah, Ashik, it's a little bit of a tricky one if you're just trying to figure this out in real time. Okay. All right. So just like that. Okay, that's your best chance to get the right answers. Okay, short form. Don't write long, because if you're writing a lot of words or letters, you're going to miss listening to the answers. Okay? So, all right. So there's Catherine. Catherine says, yes, the computer-based exam will offer you pen and paper. Yeah, because they know that this kind of question requires this, okay? All right, so, and then question 30, here we go. What do the speakers believe about taxes in the future? This one was fairly easy. They let you off on an easy last question here, I think. So they will stay relatively the same. They will be lower. They will be higher. C, yeah, they will be higher. Yeah, you just have to think of the real world situations, right? Taxes seem to always be going up, up, and up. IELTS doesn't lie. They're going to give you the same kind of answer that's reality. They're always going higher. We have some tax breaks and tax benefits in the world right now because of this pandemic and COVID. But to be honest with all of you, I am really worried about what will happen with taxes once this is all over, because if governments are trying to make back the money that they're spending on reparations and medical bills, we're going to see some astronomical taxes in the near future, is my feeling. So, all right. Good. So far, so good. Let's do this. Yeah, Penya's saying, I bet it'll be really high after the pandemic. Yeah, everybody's going to be trying to be recouping money. Okay, so let's get into part 4. Okay, one more part 4. It's a little bit faster. It's usually a lecture. And again, I'm going to play the audio through the microphone. So turn up the volume if it's quiet for you. Okay. Natalie, I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon. Get lots of rest and lots of vitamins and fluids in you. Okay. So here we go. But look at the bright side, Natalie. Once you're past it, you don't have to worry about it. You'll be immune, and you're helping us achieve herd immunity. Okay, so here we go with test number 3, part number 4. Everybody get ready. Please do not put your answers in the chat. We will go through them together after. Give everybody a chance to answer on their own. Okay, so don't put them in the chat.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about English scientist Isaac Newton. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today we are going to discuss the life and achievements of the famous English scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Many consider Newton to be the most brilliant man to have ever lived, and many consider his achievements the greatest ever achieved by one man. Newton himself was not so sure, as he famously told his followers, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." While it may be true that he built upon the foundation of scientists before him, he still managed to see further than anyone else had, and to this day his accomplishments stand the test of time. Isaac Newton was born in England in 1643. He studied at the King's School in Grantham from age 12 to 17. After leaving school, his mother tried to make him into a farmer, but that was not going to be sufficient for young Isaac. A year later, in 1661, on the recommendation of one of his teachers at the King's School in Grantham, Newton was admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge, where he eventually became a teacher 6 years later. Newton is perhaps most famous for his work on gravity. A well-known story says that Newton realized the nature of gravity while he was sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head. This story may or may not be true, but the underlying principle is valuable. Newton made the astonishing discovery that the same force that makes an apple fall to the earth also makes the earth revolve around the sun and the moon revolve around the earth. Until this time, scientists such as René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz had believed that the planets moved in some sort of matter, something they called an ether. Newton demonstrated that no such ether was required. Descartes and Leibniz also had little explanation for why apples fall to the earth. Newton's theory accounted for this almost perfectly. During the 20th century, Newton's theory came under attack by the German physicist Albert Einstein, whose theory of relativity was said to replace Newton's theory of gravitation. This is simply not true. Einstein's theory is a landmark achievement in science, but it did not replace Newton's theory, it merely improved it. To picture this, think of a smooth ball, perhaps a billiard ball. In this experiment of the mind, Newton tells us that the ball is smooth. However, Einstein says that the ball has small imperfections, dents, cuts, and scrapes. Who is right? The answer is both of them. Newton is correct on a macroscopic scale. When we look at the ball from a distance, the ball is smooth. However, Einstein is correct as well. The ball does have imperfections. He is correct on a macroscopic and a microscopic scale. Another of Newton's important achievements is the reflecting telescope. Previously, Galileo had used lenses to construct his telescope, but Newton was the first to use mirrors in a telescope. Today's telescopes are almost all made of mirrors as opposed to lenses, which again speaks to Newton's brilliance. There are a number of reasons the mirror is an improvement over the lens in telescopes. First, mirrors do not warp as easily as lenses do, and by that I mean that lenses can lose their shape in hot or cold weather quite easily. Second, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their shorter focal distance. Third, telescopes with mirrors can be built far larger because the mirrors themselves can be built larger. An achievement of Newton's that must not be overlooked is Newton's discovery of calculus. Although the discovery was not without controversy, Gottfried Leibniz also claims to have invented calculus at approximately the same time. Nobody really knows the truth, but it is accepted that they discovered it separately. In any case, it was a brilliant achievement by both scientists. Newton died in March 1727, and his body was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey in London, in a famous above-ground tomb. He was 84.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And make sure to check your answers. Interesting fact about Newton's age, dying at 84 in 1723, living to the age of 20 or 84 is like living to 120 today. Okay, here we go. So the first was a flow chart. It starts with Isaac Newton being born in 1643. So again, here you use that strategy. You identify the location in the audio by the name and the date. Okay? And then he studied at King's School in Grantham from the age of, and this is 31, you need two numbers, and the two numbers are 12 and 17. That is correct, yeah. So just the numbers, 12 and 17, okay? That's all you need, just the numbers. 12 and 17. Don't write the words. It's a bad idea, okay? All right, and then he leaves school at 17, and his mother attempts to make Isaac into what? That's right, Kowal, very good. Not a father, Piyush, into a farmer. Farmer, very good, Victor. Lots of students got that one, yeah. Into a farmer, okay? And Isaac was not satisfied with being a farmer. He wanted more. So he returns to school 1661 on the recommendation of his teachers. He's admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge. 6 years after starting the school, Newton becomes a something at the school. Yeah, a teacher. Very good. Okay. So instead of a farmer, he becomes a teacher at the college. Okay. Now, we had some characters here and discussion about their discoveries and their perspectives, their contributions to science. Talk about Galileo, Newton, Descartes, and Leibniz, and Einstein. Number 34, believed that planets moved in some kind of an ether, some kind of a liquid. Who was that? It was Descartes and Leibniz. So, yeah, it was C. Okay? You have to listen for the names here very, very carefully. Okay? Number 35, developed a theory which was thought to replace the earlier theory of gravity. The earlier theory of gravity, of course, is Newton, and there's only one scientist out of these four who came after Newton, a very famous Austrian scientist, was Albert Einstein. Yeah. I believe Austrian. Okay, number 36. In the experiment of the mind, it tells us that the billiard ball is smooth. 36 is B, Newton, yeah. So he looked at the billiard ball from a macroscopic scale, meaning that the ball is smooth, and Einstein looked at it from a microscopic scale, saying that the ball has imperfection. Okay, number 37, used not mirrors. Students, always really pay attention to these negatives. Used not mirrors, but lenses in the construction of telescopes. A very famous Italian scientist, Galileo, of course. Galileo, very good. Okay, so C, D, B, A, those were the correct answers there. Good for those who got it. We've got a few more questions to go. All right, these were quite challenging. Hopefully some of you got it. These were looking for some higher bands. Telescopes with lenses cannot be built as large as telescopes with mirrors because large lenses tend to something in the hot and cold. Yarabisha, for the previous one, it couldn't be. Anas says lose shape. Yeah, not loose shape, Poonam, careful, but lose shape, okay? So it's two words, so don't use there. Tend to lose shape, okay? Or there was one word. There is another word that you could have said here. That's right, Catherine. Very good. Warp. Okay? So lose shape or warp. That's the other word. Warp. Bend, I don't think they'll take bend, but warp or lose shape. W-A-R-P is the same as lose shape. Okay, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their reduced what? What is different there? Yeah, Tai Pham, very good. Focal distance, very good, Poonam. Very good, Kaur. Yeah, very good, Hassan. Focal distance. The reduced focal distance. Of course, if somebody is into photography and uses DSLR or mirrorless cameras, then you'll be familiar with this collocation. So reduced focal distance, they're much shorter, right? If you've ever seen a telescope with lenses, they're very, very long. And if you see the ones with mirrors, they're very, very short compared. Okay? Pandya, short distance is not okay. Okay? Reduced already means short. So if you said short distance, It's doubling the word reduced. That's bad grammar. Okay, so it's focal distance. Okay, and then there was one last. Just listen for the answer and then pick out the matching correct response. Which statement is true? Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus together. British, German, probably not at that time. Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus separately during the same period. Or Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus separately while working at the same university. I didn't picture that one, so yeah, B is the correct answer. So it seems that they discovered calculus around the same time, but in different places. Very good, everyone. All right, so add up your marks, especially those students who were here last class. Add up your marks from 40. What did you get out of 40? What was your grand total? This is your, what we call your raw score. Okay. And then your raw score gets converted into your band score. And there's a conversion chart for that. Or you can just use the score calculator on the website. I'll show you what that looks like. Just give me a second here. I've got to get the screen a bit darker so you can see this. Okay, so here we go. So on the bottom of our websites, you see this, and it's free. You can use this anytime. You see this score calculator. Okay, so you click on that score calculator, and then you'll see that there's listening and there's academic reading. General reading has a different conversion ratio, so careful with that. Listening, I see a lot of people got 30. Carolina, you got 34. So for those of you who got 30, 30 would be a band 7. Okay. Carolina, you got 34. That would be a band 7.5. Thai Pham got 37. That would be a band 8.5. Mahbuba 31. Band 7. Pandya 29. 29 is a 6.5. Dinthung 40 would be a band 9 for sure. That's a perfect score. Prashith, you can't get 42 because 40 is the maximum. 35 for Guilherme. Yeah. 35 is a band 8. Okay. All right. So you can check out that score calculator. If you are doing the general IELTS, please make sure to look at the general IELTS website score calculator so that you're getting accurate readings for what you're doing. Okay. All right, everyone. Of course, if you haven't done this yet, I highly recommend joining our premium package, spending a few dollars on that, just so that you really do maximize your chance of getting a good band score on your exam. Okay, it's the premium course is really only like a tenth the cost of your IELTS exam, so it's a smart investment for those of you who are going to do that. For the academic, same idea. Just click the big red button there. Okay. All right. That's it for today's class. Tomorrow I will be back with speaking part 2 for members, followed by speaking part 3, where everybody can join the chat. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone. Good for you. Yarabisha, if you have trouble paying, just send me an email. We have different ways you can pay through our apps as well. So you're very welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today and for dedicating your time to improving yourself and exercising your brain. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I hope I see all of you tomorrow. I'm Adrian, signing out from Central Europe. Bye for now.